and welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about game genres and assignment 2.1. One of my favorite genres of games is adventure games. I like adventure games because the narrative is central to the game. The character is able to discover mysteries and solve quests. Also, the character is able to develop abilities through the game and collect items that the character uses to solve the mystery. Adventure games are usually single player, even though nowadays there are adaptations where adventure games can be multiplayer, where many different players have characters and they all work together to solve the mystery. Another type of game genre that I like is strategy games. In strategy games, the narrative is more limited. It usually serves as a frame for the main conflict of the game. Usually, strategy games involve having to expand, conquer, or cultivate in certain environment. The type of strategy games that I like is where the strategy involves having to engage in warfare to conquer other territories. What I have learned from this unit is that aesthetics and games are very important. When considered designing a game, it's not only about the graphics and the interface for the game. The different aesthetic elements play a very important role in the development of the game. Aesthetics in games are central to engage the player and to engage whoever is playing the game to develop different abilities of the character during the game. When we talk about aesthetics in games, we can refer to the narrative. Depending on the type of genre that we are discussing, the narrative can be central to the game, like in adventure games, or it could be very limited, like in strategy games. Another aesthetic aspect to consider to be able to engage the player is the character. When the game is a single player, usually the player has to develop certain abilities through the character. The character will advance through the game and develop these abilities. Usually levels within the games give the character the opportunity to learn new skills, to acquire new objects to use during the game, and to finally complete the mission or solve the puzzle depending on the type of game genre. Another aesthetic element important to the design of games is the environment and the perspective. Usually, in adventure games, the environments are very easy to design. They're usually scenarios or rooms that are pre-designed and very easy to construct. In strategy games, usually the characters move through locations to be able to conquer or expand territory. Another very important aesthetic aspect in games is gameplay and mechanics. Gameplay and mechanics refers to the ability to use multiplayers or one single player during the game. Usually the mechanics of a video game will determine how engaging the video game can be. I believe that my favorite type of games, whether strategy games or adventure games, can be adapted for learning. How? For instance, in an adventure game, the character moves through scenarios, finding objects that can be used to solve the mystery. If we take this into a real live scenario where a project needs to be completed, the character can be moved through scenarios to collect the different components needed for the project to be completed. For instance, when putting together a business plan, the team needs to consider the financial statements of the company, the competitors, the market, and the clientele. In a video game adaptation, the team will move through different scenarios where they will learn what are the different elements and components of the financial statements for the company in order to create the business plan. Moving to the next scenario, the team will learn about how important it is to understand the competition and the competitive market. Thirdly, in a different scenario, the team can learn about the importance of customer service and who their customers are. This is just one of the applications how an adventure game can be adapted into a learning experience using the aesthetic elements and the characteristics of an adventure game to develop a learning environment for putting together a project or a learning experience. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation and see you next time. Thank you for watching.